Okay, so we've got a Father's Day gift. A cherry, sweet cherry. It's kind of cool. So this is Hedelfingen sweet cherry. Cherries want to be about 20 feet from the closest cherry tree. So we have one here. And sorry for the shakiness. I don't have the gimbal. And it's hard to see this. Here's the cherry. So I was thinking I can either put it in this bed with the Jerusalem artichokes. The thing is it only gets afternoon sun. If I want a little more sun, which I might want to do, I might extend this bed out a bit, plant it here. That'll still be a nice 20 feet away. Okay, so the other thing I did is anytime I plant a tree, I always like to prune it to help just give it less transpiration losses. And I look for areas to prune. This here we have a central junction here with 3 things coming out at the same spot. One very close and another one very close over here. So this one I thought to prune it to central leader to keep the height because I don't want it suckering a ton, so I didn't want to make a terminal cut. So I'm going to leave this as a central leader for now, and I cut 2 of those off because I didn't want to cut the central leader and then leave 2 here and then have the tree split down the road. So I wanted to take that pulling force out of this node and then leave the central leader. So for example here, you have 2 opposite branches, but because they're offset, see offset, 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 that's kind of what you want. So I was looking for that, and then down the road, any of these can be future branches. And then with the cuttings, so each one of these leaf nodes had 4 or 5 leaves coming out. So I pruned it down to just 1 per node. And then I took off all of them at the bottom. And then cut them to roughly 1 foot long segments. And then I'm going to root them in the wetland filter. This is a well oxygenated source of constant flowing fresh water. So this is about as good as it gets. You can see how well the willows are doing. So willows are kind of famous for rooting very quick because they have salicylic acid in them. Maybe some of the salicylic acid will help some of these cherries root. I'm not sure, but we'll set it up. We'll look for callousing at the very least before we plug those in. Hopefully they'll become well rooted like the willows. Those willows could probably go in the ground now. See, so in that way we can take a $70 tree, maybe make 4 more trees out of it this year. And then who knows how many taking hardwood cuttings in the next couple years. So this is how you can really drive the cost down to building a food forest, is once you have a couple trees and you start needing to prune, you can start generating free trees out of those prunings. Okay, so we're sheet mulching the new cherry tree there. So we mow as low as possible. So the mower's there. We mow as low as possible, and then we put cardboard on. We make sure we double it up. No cracks anywhere. Dig the hole roughly twice as wide as the tree. And then this is me kind of setting the height of the tree. You want the root crown above. Let me just show you that, especially if it's grafted. So you want the root flare, So see where it kind of starts to get wider? That needs to be above the ground level. You don't want to bury that. And then just kind of setting the height, playing with the angle. I kind of want it leaning out here because that's south and there's cedars and there's lots of shadow. So midday summer is not a big deal. There's lots of sun, but I want it leaning out a little bit. So I think that looks pretty good. And we'll fill it in, put a little bit more compost on the top. And then, as always, when we disturb, we sow. So when we disturb, we sow, and I'll sow that out to clover, and then I'll fill in the gaps. The Jerusalem artichokes will walk over. The sweet Sicily will kind of creep and walk over. We've got garlic, mulberries. So we have some stuff in here that we can take cuttings from, spread seeds, and we'll kind of just flesh this out over the next couple months. You can see how dead everything is, the grass. It's been really, really dry. So we'll give this a big, deep soak and make sure that we get water deep down as possible. I'm also putting more compost in the hole compared to native soil because the compost is very woody and there's lots of moisture retention capability in this stuff. So I just kind of want to build that soil sponge up, especially in this super, super dry season, because this is not the optimal time to plant trees. You want to plant trees either early spring or kind of early fall as soon as it starts getting blistering hot, because you want the roots of the tree to develop before the two critical seasons, the summer and the winter. So for us, we typically want early spring so that we get lots of growth on the roots before winters come. In hot climates, you probably want fall planting so you get lots of root growth before you get your next super heat summer. The weird thing about where I'm located is actually we have very, very hot, dry summers, and then we have cold winters. Like, it's not uncommon for our summers to get some 35-degree, even higher days, like upwards of even 110 Fahrenheit. And then the winter time we get super, super, super cold. So there's really no good time to plant, but this is not a good time. So this tree's gonna need a bit of extra love building that soil, and then we'll give it lots of water. Okay, so I did also sprinkle some like sandy dirt of the native dirt on top, because I want, when we water this, I want that to be drawn down and help fill in some of the gap holes in the soil. So now we're basically going to flood this like 2 or 3 times until it pools and then just slowly sinks down, and then draw that soil and compost down and fill in all the holes that we just created. Okay, and then we're done. So basically, watered this until it pools, and then let it sit and soak down, and then water it again until it pools, let it soak down, and do that a couple times. It'll flush all that air out. Look, this is how hot it is. Ginny's having a sleep in the shade. Hey, baby.